morning, everybody. Although for me, it's currently feeling like about 2 a.m. in the morning. So keep with me as I battle the jet lag. It's absolutely delicious, actually, to be here. This is a phenomenal event. We've got just about everybody who's everybody, I think, in APJ at this prestigious LinkedIn Talent Connect, the second one, I think, for Sydney. And the story of my session is about a journey that we are on with SAP. So I need to manage everybody's expectations here in the room, that if you're expecting a nicely packaged up set of solutions for how we did it perfectly and now we're real comfortable, then this is not going to be the session for you. What I want to do is give a very honest view around where we are right now and why it matters for SAP that we make this transformational journey in talent. This isn't a comment on my penchant for buying shoes, many pairs of shoes. The sparklier, the better. This is just for us a little symbol of the fact that we are on, whether it's the yellow brick road or any other kind of road, we are definitely on the road and we know directionally where we're heading. I also have to say, for those of you who belong to SAP in the audience, any future references to me as Dorothy will not carry very well. And it is absolutely a journey. So what I want to do with you this morning is just talk a bit about SAP, not the advertising push, but the real basis for why talent increasingly matters to a company this size. I want to give you a bit of context about the market that we're in, and then I want to talk about how the talent strategy is evolving, not just in terms of who we're going after, but that is changing quite radically, but also what's our recipe in being able to attract and retain those new tranches of talent in that market. So, for those of you that were listening really well to Cliff when he did his opening presentation, you may recall he said we have speakers coming from Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Brisbane, Singapore, San Francisco, etc. Well, I'm from etc., right? And you can see etc. is located in a place called Scotland. So you're going to have to put up with a fairly funny accent for the next 25 minutes. And I just want to give you a little feel for some of our heroes. Todd was talking about hero worship earlier on, and here's some of ours. But can I tell you, there's one thing that we actually worship more than these beautiful brave hearts on the slide. That's our national nutrition, and anybody that really wants to know the recipe of what goes into haggis can ask me at the breaks. Please don't LinkedIn me or question it on any email. It could be kind of damaging brand-wise. So, that's who I am. I'm a Scottish lass that joined SAP, the firm, about 18 months ago. I hail, as you know, from Edinburgh, but actually I'm based in Germany. And SAP is in over 130 countries worldwide. We have 65,000 employees, as you can see. Typically, we hire about 10,000 people a year, although that profile is changing, and I'll cover that off later. And we've got a fairly sizable top line and indeed bottom line organisationally. You know, the really nice thing, and I'm not going to talk about the companies I worked for previously, but the really nice thing that I have found with SAP is that clearly making profit is important, as it is for any organisation. But actually, we really do believe we are about helping the world be a better place and run better. And for some people, that manifests itself in some of the things that we're doing in terms of healthcare and early diagnostics around cancer and other life-threatening illnesses. For For others, it is actually understanding the degree to which our technology can prevent things like oil drills getting stuck into the earth and causing all sorts of potential disasters from a green perspective. At a more superficial level, and my son tends to like this quite a lot, he likes to hear the fact that 70% of the world's chocolate and beer production comes off SAP systems. And the one that probably gets the most cool votes from my 8-year-old nephew is the fact that, that iTunes runs on SAP. So there are some things, we're a B2B company, and there are some things that are very interesting about us, but sometimes quite hard to get message-wise across. We have a very, very ambitious strategy, growth strategy. I'm not going to go through each of the lines there, but it's bold, it's achievable, but it's stretch for us as an organisation and involves some change, and most importantly, for the people in this room, and I hope certainly for some resident Aussie people that picture is going to work, because it's going to work a lot better here than it is in my home country. To deliver the SAP Bold strategy, we absolutely have to be able to get the best talent, attract it, hire it, retain it, and always be extracting, in the nicest possible sense, the most from it. And you know, the thing that struck me listening to people so far this morning, and Amy latterly, but also in some of the earlier conversations, is we do really face a lot of similar challenges. And as I go around the world, never fail to get struck with how common the challenges are across sector and indeed across geographies. Now, obviously, there's unique things that are particularly, tricky in some emerging markets, say, versus mature, and the reverse also being true. But actually, some of the challenges that we are looking at here are challenges that people in this room are facing day to day, week to week, month to month, to be able to support their businesses. And certainly, one of the big challenges is the ever discerning, demanding traits of the candidates that we are going after, and never more is that the case with the millennial generation, whom I've been advised by my son now don't like to be called millennials, so we're going to have to find some. I think digital natives is one that David thought was quite appealing, kind of cool, the cool bit. But we are facing some really tough times, and I know certainly with the recruiters in SAP, this gig is tough, and it just seems to be feeling tougher and tougher. Generating the right quality of candidates at the front end, getting the candidates converted over the line is really, really hard work. So Amy talked about having a strategy, and that a large percentage of recruiting organisations do not have a strategy. I completely concur with this, and for us, at SAP, we started from the people and organisational strategy, which is what HR will do in conjunction with partners to enable the delivery of that 2015 business strategy. And from the people and organisational strategy, which you can see here has 4 pillars, if you like, the first pillar that you see is all about what we are doing to build, nurture, grow our talent. And we have done this, and again, I'm listening to Todd this morning talking about mechanisms for creativity. One of the things that we've done in SAP this year is to look at bringing our strategy from the people who are on the end of it, rather than HR sitting in lovely offices for 2-day, 3-day offsites and boiling up the plan for 2014. We've used design thinking workshops, and we've involved our end users to get to what does the talent strategy need to be for this organisation going forward. Now, interestingly for us, our definition of talent is changing. We are trying very hard to be holistic and end-to-end about talent. So when we're talking about talent, we're not just talking about the acquisition. We're not just talking about the training. We're talking about end-to-end. What is the talent experience here? What does it need to be able to get the most from our talent? And what we've also done, as well as changing our definition to make it end-to-end, the other thing is that we have changed where we are putting our focus. Now, historically, and for probably some years, and very reflective, I think, of the tech sector itself, we have predominantly been in a buy strategy for whenever we needed new capabilities, replacement capabilities. It came either directly from acquisition of companies, or it came from going straight to the external market and buying. And for us, that's really not going to work as the one-stop solution going forward for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's very expensive to do this, and becoming ever more expensive as various markets around the world catch up. The second thing is, and I'm going to say in technology, but I actually think it's probably in other industries too, the reality is that we're not always that clear what we need the talent for, and there isn't necessarily always the right pools of talent for the emerging capabilities that we see. The rate of change in technology is so fast that the pools are smaller and smaller and smaller in unique areas that we need. So going to the equivalent of the supermarket or the boutique or whatever and just taking it off the hanger and popping it in the wardrobe is not going to be an option for us going forward. So we have 4 strands, and I'm going to cover each of them, just a couple of minutes on each. There are 4 areas. Increasing our diversity of candidates, increasing the inflow of early talent, i.e. our graduate university candidates, increasing our internal channel, and finally, then when we do go externally to the market, these are strategic, thoughtful hires that we are going to the market with a very compelling proposition around. So first off, diversity. We're not alone. I don't think it's even just the tech sector, but for sure there is not enough mix and richness in the work profiles that we've got right now. And so our opportunity clearly is to use the hiring that we do in SAP to address some of the gaps that we see. And what you can see up there is attract more females. That's not the totality of our diversity and inclusion policy. I hope most of you will be relieved to hear, but it is where we are choosing to start. And in some senses, that's been driven by countries and quotas and various social and economic issues. But actually for us, it's a bit more fundamental. As an organisation, we really mobilise around specificity. And for us, we're going to go after female talent. And this really is about starting in schools and starting to change some of the mindsets that prevent females coming into the tech sector. We're also doing a lot around creating business women's networks, both in-house and externally. We're doing some amazing work, in fact, in Dubai, where we really are transforming the perception of the females in the tech sector right now, which is just awesome. And we've got the most amazing scorecard where we really are in every single business unit targeting. And I know, again, that generates controversy sometimes around, well, you know, if you put in targets, then, you know, you just get potentially poorer quality people. We are absolutely of the belief that the start point for us is having targets for this, not to relentlessly follow to the point of damaging the business, but what gets seen and measured gets paid attention to. So that is where we are starting with diversity. The second priority for us is very much about being much more into entry-level talent. We hire probably just now about 1,700 grads globally, worldwide. And for us, it's very important that we do 2 things. One, that we build the talent pools for leaders and experts in the future, and therefore we need to be a lot more intentional about which schools, universities we're looking at, and which grade. And I don't mean their certificate, but actually, are we hiring the AAA graduates in the market, or are we at the B plus, B minus. And for us, if this really is about fueling the talent pipelines for SAP going forward, it has to be AAA. So the attraction and the selection has to be really forensically focused on that. The other thing is not just filling the talent pipelines for tomorrow, also what we are seeing are some very different capabilities emerging. We saw Steve Jobs up on the screen earlier on, and you know, we can really thank Steve Jobs for changing the way software looks at design. And it's probably the first time in certainly not many occasions where actually consumers have led expectations in the workplace. It used to be always you got the best tech stuff at work and eventually you kind of migrated it to home. With Apple and with the look, the feel, the design of everything, we've got to a situation where potentially software in the home is more user-friendly in many instances than it is in the workplace, and that has to change. One of the key kind of forcing mechanisms for us in that is that the volume of designers that we have within software companies has to up. The quotient of designers to engineers needs to change, and the graduate market, of course, is one of the real key areas for us there. The second targeted group in the graduate market for us is very much looking at people who have IT backgrounds but combined with business. And again, that's really to reflect changing ways of working. 10, 15 years ago, maybe even 5 actually, I'm getting on a bit these days, so I'm not so good at remembering how many years have elapsed, but actually it used to be that the people that were instrumental in buying software for a company was the CTO, it was the technology function. So therefore it was absolutely fabulous for salespeople in technology firms to be able to go in and talk to technology, talk about speed of things, talk about functionality, talk about deeply technical things that would then inform the decision. But that's not happening now. The reality is the software firms need to be able to talk with people that are in this room about recruitment software, not the CTO. They need to be able to talk to procurement about systems. They need to be able to talk to the financial controllers about how they want to process information, use it, control it, disseminate it. So the dialogue has changed radically in terms of who it is we're having conversations with, which means the business component of people going out and speaking to business needs to be higher. And again, we see this combined business IT being in there as one of the today challenges to go to university market to address. Amy talked about this too. There was a lot of similarity in what we were saying. This is an untapped or under-tapped market for an awful lot of firms. And it's interesting, for us, our talent philosophy is about growing from within. Our start point is that everybody in SAP is a talent and that we will grow you within. Well, if that's to be true, then the reality is the internal career experience has to be not even just the same as the external, it actually has to be better. Now, historically, we've hired typically about 80% external, 20% internal, and our task over the next 24 months is to move to 60% internal, 40% external, which is a very radical change. And when I look at how recruiters look at the internal market, or how we have to date, and this is part of our transformation, we've tended to think internal recruitment isn't actually real recruitment. And I can see anxiety when I'm speaking to some of the teams when we're talking about this changed ratio, because it is very transparent. It's on all the business scorecards. And I can see these worries. In fact, we've probably got Paul down there showing a worried face, because recruiters are thinking, and I don't blame them for this, we need to change this. They're thinking that if we go down to 40% external hiring, there's going to be no need for a significant proportion of them. Because of course, the internal hiring doesn't really generate work. Well, of course it does. And so we've got to, as part of this strategy, change our mindset to say, actually, what we do is different here, but what we're doing is almost actually more valuable by building the internal career pipeline than it is going out to buy externally. And then laterally, I said the fourth part is that we will still always go to the market. That number is 40%. We have to be able to go to the market, but intentionally around roles or in areas where we cannot grow it ourselves. So the default position is we go last to the market, not first. So those are the 4 target audiences that have really changed us: the graduates, the internal talent, the early talent, and the strategic professional hirings. But I wanted to also just share with you, what do we think the recipe for success is here? What do we think we will have to pay attention to? And the first thing, and I'll talk a little bit about this later also, the first thing for me is that we have to be absolutely relentless about quality. And you know, whenever I meet any of the teams, or whether we're connecting through networking groups, everybody always nods sagely and says, oh yes, quality. Quality, time and heart. Yeah, absolutely, quality is really key. And when I sit down with some of the people that I work with and say, well, you know what, I've got 3 questions to really test whether you are about quality or you're not. And this is in a situation where we're talking about salespeople. So the first question I have is, did the people that you added as new hires in the last 24 months, did they fit in the got up to speed quicker than the average, got up to speed at the average, or did it in fact take them longer? And typically, so far, although I am living in hope we're changing on this, the answer is that we don't know. And then I go to a second question and I say, right, did the people that we added in the last 24 months hit 100% and above of quota? Did they hit 80 to 100? Okay. Or were they actually, over the last 24 months, significantly people that didn't hit their numbers even closely? You know how the story goes, right? When I ask that question, we don't know. And then the third and last question I ask is, right, okay, of the people that joined in 24 months, how many are still here? How many fitted the organization that we invited them to join? Now, we can sometimes do a marginally better job on this because we've usually got the attrition stats. But if we understand not just the stats, but why did we lose them, we start scratching our heads again. And there's my start point on quality. Unless you can answer the equivalent questions in your organization, then do not kid yourself that you are intentional about quality, because you're not. Quality is happening by accident, and you've got your eyes shut and your fingers in your ears. So for us, this is really, really important. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later. Second opportunity for us to be able to deliver against the 4 candidate markets is that we have to streamline our processes. Now, first I would say, well, I'd say 2 things. One, when I read that and I think about myself 18 months ago, I think, is this the German effect wearing off on me? Because having lived and worked in Germany for the last 18 months, I'm definitely keener on processes being standardized and followed than perhaps I was before I joined. However, I think the most important thing here in this, when I put this up and feel actually proud of it rather than embarrassed, is to say, first of all, you have to design the right process. You have to understand what process is going to give you the value. But once you've done that, we do not then bury it everywhere by everybody because they happen not to want to follow those processes or because they think they've got a better way. It screws up your data big time if you have not got the processes being followed, and it screws up the candidate experience. So big no-no to lots of variation here. We've heard a lot about brand. I mean, clearly differentiating and being standout to the markets that you want to be in. It's not mission critical that you are beautiful in every single talent market. It is mission critical that you're beautiful in the markets that you're going after. So just quick, last sort of 2-3 minutes here on this. Brand-wise, the goal is to humanize it. This isn't new. This will be people in this room will be doing this, have done it already, but it is humanizing it to be about the people that are in our organization, our best asset. And then obviously to engage with the communities through, and I've put LinkedIn there, so I'm hoping that's going to get a tick from our hosts today. Candidate experience, absolutely critical. And again, I've heard this morning from Amy, back to basics. You know, there's some very clever tools we can do. We can create lots of good stuff. The risk is that it makes us lazy, not more personal, not more social. And I get absolutely mad when I see emails and communications going out with nobody's name. I mean, some of the stuff that potentially we can do in this industry now as it becomes easier is just lose our manners. And that's really important that we don't. The quality issue for me, I talked about why I think we're not in that space just yet. To me, there's two things. One, in any of your job families or your key roles, you really do have to understand what the unique DNA is that drives for the superior performers. And that's science, actually. That's not art, and it's certainly not what the hiring managers tell you, which is usually a Dear Santa Claus list of 25 things that they want, that almost always focus on people's experience and skills, both of which you can train into an organization. What you can't do is train in improvements in intelligence, and if it turns out for that particular role, intelligence is kind of mission critical, no amounts of months in your value universities is going to make that change. So being really clear about the DNA, and then making sure that within your assessments you are relentlessly searching only for that. Challenges ahead for us. We've talked about fear this morning. I was delighted to see all these connections coming up. We all fear change, that's normal. I don't know if we need to find our extra 5 minutes to hold our nerve around some of the stuff. I suspect we might need to hold on for a little bit more than 5 minutes in some instances, but we have to recognize this and understand why it is that people feel resistant to change and address those, and that won't be one single answer. There's always going to be a bit of this, and you know what? What is good today is almost inevitably not going to be good enough tomorrow. And I hope I don't get shot by my employers on this particular slide. You know, technology is an absolutely phenomenal enabler, but really winning the mindset and the heart of the people that are going to be working always wins over great technology. So that concludes me. I have no idea what we'll find at the end of the yellow brick road. Hopefully another pair of nice sparkly shoes and a more attractive name. But you know, very happy if we want any questions to be taken here. But it was very much just about sharing the journey we're on rather than saying that we've got there. I think we're maybe about a quarter of the way down the brick road, if that. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks.